Ben DiNucci back in the D. We talked about the True Brand hats. A lot of guys are rocking those in practice. And whether it's upside down or not, you can't spell Dallas without 2 L's. And Seattle could make this back-to-back losses for the Arlington Renegades, which would be really tough for them to recover from in the playoff race. I expressed all my gripes with Seattle's offense in our last show, and now that I've learned not to lay the points with them, I want to just take a look at the matchup and how they look against this Renegades defense. Number 1 offense with Seattle and June Jones. Number 1 defense with Jay Hayes and the Arlington Renegades. So great matchup. The Renegades have managed to allow under 1,000 yards through the air through 6 games. Only XFL team to do so. Last 2 games, now they have played San Antonio, who has started 4 different quarterbacks and is about to call Mikey Manziel with some of the injuries they have. But you have to give Arlington credit for the numbers they've put up. You have to give credit that secondary mostly. They were massive down the stretch in week 1. You remember Devontae Bosby basically won the game on a pick 6 for them. They lost Josh Hawkins, who just went through ACL surgery today. Saw some tweets from Josh. He was about to be an all XFL corner at the midseason and will not play the rest of the season with that ACL. Looks like he had successful surgery. Shakur Brown and Joe Powell have stepped up huge to replace him. Those guys did not start at the beginning of the season. Will Hill, another vet who's been excellent in that back part of that Arlington defense. Some injury notes here for the Seattle offense this week. Juice Ellison back in practice. I read some reports today that he was getting some goal line work, so that's good news. He has a banged up knee, missed the last few games. Seattle's run game has been completely ineffective since they've been missing him. Darius Bradwell just not able to get going. They are missing their left tackle, Liam Jimmons, again for the 2nd straight week. Mike Minette had an injury. Left guard looks like he will play. Seattle's run game went from being number 2 in the XFL to number 4. So they've fallen off a bit. Got to be better in the red zone. The reason I didn't want to lay the 5 here is because of that red zone inefficiency. Teams have started to figure out a little bit how to cover Jacor Pearson in the slot. He hasn't been able to get open as much. Josh Gordon and Jacor Pearson combined have only had 11 catches in the last 2 games. Seattle's still toting that top pass offense, but they're 4th in scoring, which is a little strange for me to have the number 1 total offense, but only have the 4th most points. Ben DiNucci. So Arlington, Zook alluded to in the beginning of the show, Arlington has picked off 7 balls this year. 6 different players have recorded an interception for Jay Hayes' defense. That's huge. Donald Payne, 2nd in the league in tackles. He's a force in that front 7. But I think DiNucci has really wanted to play a game in Dallas here for a long time. Obviously, he was with the Dallas Cowboys, got his shot with them, and he was a very popular quarterback online for his efforts. Arlington defense, really tough though. 2nd in scoring. They're the top pass defense, and they got some dogs in that secondary. If you take care of the ball and you punch it in inside the red zone, I'm giving the edge to the Seattle offense here, as I have all year. Finding the edge on the other side of the ball is very simple. Arlington, just disastrous offensively. And the first major change they make is to get rid of quarterback Kyle Sloter. Final XFL 23 stats for Kyle. Let's run through them. 61 of 101, 499 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 picks. Pat Ruffino, friend of the show, pointing out to us on Twitter that Luis Perez, now with the Renegades, actually threw more touchdowns to Arlington than their own quarterback, Kyle Sloter, did. He also took 6 sacks. His QB rating was 59.8. That was 10 points lower than Jack Cohn. So it just did not work out for Sloter like it did in the USFL for him. So Luis Perez now a Renegade, but Bob Stoops, of course, saying he's not going to be ready this week. Drew Plitt and Kevin Anderson running the show here against Seattle. One thing to keep an eye on, I saw this, 6 defensive starters listed on the injury report for Seattle this week, and some big names. You got a Tuzar skipper on there, Bryce Thompson, Sharif Miller, Nico Lalos. We'll have to monitor that. Jim Haslett can't be happy about his guys getting banged up here, and most of them listed as questionable, so they could go. But if all those guys miraculously just don't play, could be tough. Arlington might have a chance here to put some numbers up offensively, but they've just been stuck in neutral all season. Seattle even if they have to rely on some backups. I don't care. The Seattle Sea Dragons are the pick. We know who Chris Zook's going with. Any notes, news on this one? Are you worried about it? You think they cover? A thought on maybe the total at 37.5?
I mean, money line all day. I'm not willing to lay -5. And just kind of piggyback what you were talking about earlier, red zone scoring, they're just not there. Too many turnovers. I like a money line. I'm not laying any points.
Yeah, we've seen Arlington make other teams pay, especially when they get down to the red zone. Mikey Manziel probably make it to 3 for 3 on Seattle here. I think it's clear who the better team is in this matchup. You don't have to think too hard. Again, we have not really seen that big upset this year where one of the bottom 4 knocked off one of the top 4. So Seattle looking to avoid that. Remember, a lot of people think this is a road game. No, it's not. They came back from their game against Orlando on a Saturday back into the hub, and they've been there to practice all week, so they don't have to travel. So not much of a home field advantage built into this for the Arlington Renegades.